Hello, everyone. This is Winston with the Surviving Business Show. As you can see, I am by myself today. My wonderful brother had an emergency come up, so I'm wishing him all the best. And that means that I can only go so far talking to myself without talking to him. As you all who watched this show before know that our banter back and forth when we talk about businesses and we talk about you is one of the things that drives the success of the show. So we're very so I'm hoping to have him back here, and I'll tell you at the end here of our big plans to end our season one. But I wanted to kick off this week by taking it aside a little bit and talking about something that's pretty important to me and maybe important to you as well. And that is that May is National Mental Awareness Month. Now, there's lots of somethings months, like there's a month for almost everything in the world. But this is very important to me personally, and probably to you, as someone that's been affected by mental awareness and mental challenges and mental illness. It's very close to my heart what this is. And in a second here, I'll show you some resources that can help you if you or someone you know are battling with this. The reason why I wanted to start off and talk to you all and share with you about this up front is that having a challenge within yourself makes it difficult for you to have a business that you really want to have. I hear a lot of people that come about and they say, hey, just do these 10 things and you're going to have a thriving business. They might be right, but most of those 10 things has got not anything to do with you internally and what you're going through and what you're feeling and what your heart is dealing with. It's just about external stuff. And I'll talk to you about some of those external things here in a moment. But it's about things like task. If you do X amount of things, or if you have this great marketing thing, then that's great. And you will be super successful. That could be true. But what can also be true is that if you do those things, but at the same time, there's something going on with you or with a loved one, it's going to be difficult. The greatest task done poorly aren't fantastic tasks. And going through a mental challenge, and I personally, for those of you, I share a lot. And one of the things I share is that I personally was going through I spoke to someone back in 2018 for months because I was going through enough anxiety that told me that, hey, this is the time to talk to someone. Now, in hindsight, does this mean that was there a connection between this and my ultimate diagnosis of multiple sclerosis? I don't know. All I know is what I was feeling at the moment. And it was real. And everyone who is going through something like this, it is real to them as well. And so make sure that you're really out there taking care of other people. When you get up in the morning, just don't think about what you got to do. Think about your clients and your customers and what they are going through and how can you help them solve a problem that might be external, right? It might be getting a new haircut or something like that, but it might also be something that's internal, something that's unseen. So when you talk to your clients, just don't ask them, hey, how you doing? I'm doing fine. Great, babe. Hit the road. Give me my money. Really try to understand who your clients are. There's this thing that I see a lot of people do these days where they create a persona of what their ultimate client would be. At first, when I saw that, I was like, I don't know. But I know that this is something that advertisers have been doing forever. And it's probably something you should consider as well. But just think about your people. Think about your clients like real people. Don't think of, oh, I got a sale. Oh, I got some stuff. They might be going through some stuff. And here's my comment on this, is that I know for a fact they're going through stuff because they live on the planet Earth. So now if they lived on another planet, maybe they are not going through something. But I know that they're living on this planet. And that means they're going through something. Even if their life is picturesque and they've got all of the things that one would say is a picturesque lifestyle, they still live on the planet Earth. And the whole planet has just gone through a period of time where it's been on a worldwide pandemic, where there's been these floating particles in the air that have been making people sick and contributing to some people passing. So they've gone through some stuff. So think about that when you're thinking about your business. Are you trying to capitalize on their pain? Are you trying to capitalize on their fear? Or are you trying to help them solve a problem? Even though I said capitalize on their pain and their fear, there's lots of businesses that have been successful doing that at the same time solving a problem. And for those of you who are shysters out there, scamming, all of that, you give business a bad goddamn name. I was listening to this scam recently where people were scamming people in India for oxygen because they're going through the pandemic in a significant way. And I'm saying to myself, what does that do to a person to not only not get the oxygen and potentially have your person succumb to what's going on, but then you got your money stolen at the same time? It's such an anti-human thing. And, I don't want to get super deep into my spirituality and all of that, but the enemy is out there. The enemy is out there to take apart your fear, to take apart what you're concerned about, what you dread, and to try to figure out a way to do that and to hurt you. That's why when I talk to clients, and even what we do here at the WD Consulting Group and our clients and what we are focused on, integrity, and I don't mean integrity to use the word lightly, is super key. In our documents in regards to our principles, there is a spiritual focus in it. We can't be doing what we do and then think that we're going to hurt someone else at the same time, or capitalize on their pain, or try to get them just because we want to get a 50% margin or 100% margin on it. I know businesses survive and they're successful doing that, but that's not what we are. And maybe that's not what you are either. Maybe you're not that kind of business that thinks about things like that. So anyway, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why everyone needs an LLC. Hope you all are doing well. Remember, May is Mental Awareness Month. I'm going to show you here a way to actually get some resources. Usually when David is here, I can kind of toggle back on here without much issue. So take a look at this. This is a really important thing to think about. You can see that there's a number there in the lower corner. And so this is the National Alliance for mental illness. So make sure that if you know somebody who's going through that, give them a reference to that number. They've got a ton of resources for that person to help them get to where they would like to be. But this is important. So make sure that you're doing that. So hang on real quick, everyone. Hello, David. How are you?
Hey, what's up?
How are you doing? So I was just talking to everyone about May is Mental Awareness Month, and the fact that when we have a business and one has a business, if you've got a plan and you've got clients, all of that can be derailed if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not taking care of your own mental capacity. You just can't go that far. You think you're going far, and sometimes people will tell you just do a bunch of tasks and you're going to have a successful business. But if you're hurting inside, don't matter. It don't matter. You're just not going to be able to get anything done. So that's what I was talking about. So I know you've got something going on. I'm glad to have you because now it's on. The Surviving Business Show is intact. Fantastic. It's intact and back and ready to do to lay down some smack and make it all happen. Any other business show is whack.
All right, Yeah, I work on those rhyming skills a little bit.
But no one, come on now, you know your brother got bars. He got,
Yeah, but those wasn't them. That wasn't it. That didn't make the cut.
I got bars for real. So yeah, we were just talking about that. And this week we wanted to talk to people a little bit about an LLC and my opinion about why anyone should or everyone should have an LLC, especially if you're doing something. If you've got some kind of asset that you're doing, any kind of business that you're doing on the side, part time. And I know there's other, we talked about it in a previous episode about different ways that people can do it, whether they get an S or C or a sole proprietor and all that. I just think that the LLC is the most effective and fastest way to get something or to get an entity going. And it'll protect your assets. I'm telling you, these days, you got to protect your assets. So even if your assets is just property or whatever it might be, and quite frankly, I wanted to make sure that I shared this because I didn't hear this myself. I heard this from our family member, Rhonda Morgan. She was on a radio show with someone, and it was on this AM radio station. It was hard for me to pick up while I was driving, and she shared it. And I know we got to have her on the show. Where that when you have an asset like a property, it's a good thing to have an LLC. Now, that doesn't fit for everything because you got to get your lender to approve it. And sometimes if you have an FHA loan, they can't do it with that. And so we're not giving you like, go ahead and just do it, but think about it and see if you can do it for your own property because having your assets these days where there's our society is a very litigious society. So making sure you protect yourself is a really, really key thing. So while you talk, Dave, I'm gonna go ahead and share a little resource I have associated with that.
Okay, yeah. So LLCs, mental health. I'm coming in late. I'll talk a little bit about the mental health aspect, and then I'll talk about the LLC. So mental health, it's a big topic. We look at the world today, and we are constantly inundated with different occurrences of people who need help mentally, right? They whether if it's through traumatic experiences that they've had, whether if it's through different addictions, whether if they are born with different needs. As a special educator, one thing that I've come to learn and understand is that not only do people learn differently, but people have different ways of looking at the world, different ways of observing things. And different doesn't always mean that they're wrong or that they're bad or that they're not smart or that they're not intelligent, right? It's different is just different. It's just different. So, you have a group of people that would be considered to be the masses, right? And then you have people that are outliers that don't fall into the same thing that the masses are able to do. And when we think about mental health, a lot of times people are afflicted with things because they have different ways of processing or they have different ways of seeing something. Like, I can be in a car with someone and we can have a car accident and one person walk away from a car accident with broken bones and they're all messed up, and I can walk away and be completely okay, right? But the person who has broken bones and all this other stuff, they can be all right mentally with everything that happened. Meanwhile, I walked away and I was physically okay, but now I'm traumatized every time I get into a car, and I see a car coming and I'm like screeching, like, oh no. So, that's just to give you an idea. So now when we talk about as a business, right, as a business person or a business owner, you have to take that into consideration, in everything that you're doing, right? And realize how things may be impacting you, as we've spoken before, and we've said plenty of times that business is an ever-changing environment, right? And there's always going to be something new that's popping up and something new that's changing, right? And mentally, you have to be prepared for that, but mentally, you also have to know how that's affecting you, right?
Yeah, one of the things I shared earlier was that we're all every single person has been traumatized at least over the last year to one extent or the other. And your analogy of the car accident is perfect, because every single person that is in that car accident, including the people, the bystanders, there's a whole lot of people who get affected by us in a situation like that. The people who come, the first responders who have to go over this over and over again. There's lots of people who get affected by one accident.
Yep.
And it has that one impact. And I was sharing people my own challenges with this, where in 2018, I went and spoke to someone, and I won't say it all again, but I talked about how it's important that when you're feeling a certain way, man, you got to go and talk to somebody. Yep. You got to go and get some help, because you can't run a business if you ain't right.
No.
You got to make sure you're taking care of yourself, because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else.
No. So, yeah, Mental Health Awareness Month. Yeah, it's not a month. Well, I mean, it's good that it's an awareness month, but mental health sticks with us 12 months a year, 365 days. And, I would just say, make sure that, you're in tune with yourself. If you need to speak to someone, find someone to speak to. If you need a professional, make sure that you're seeking a professional. If you need support groups, find support groups. Whatever it is that you need. If you need spiritual support that would help you with your mental health, do that. Find things that are going to allow for you to breathe and for you to not just be tied down with like these other emotions that come attached with if your mental health is not how would I say good, right? If your mental health isn't good, you get all these other things. You get stress, you get annoyance, you get anger, you get all of these other bad emotions that where you don't want to be. Don't go there, right? If you feel like you're getting too bogged down, take a second, walk away, go for a walk, find out what relaxes you, find out what your triggers are. What are those things that, when they happen, they're gonna bother you in one way or the other, and know what your reaction is. Sometimes it's almost like taking notes, writing it down. But we could talk forever and ever about mental health awareness. As you can see, I could probably talk forever and ever about everything, but we're going to move on, right? We're going to talk about LLC. So LLCs, limited liability corporation, right? The words limited liability mean a lot when we talk about it, right? So generally, what it's stating to you is that whatever is held within that entity is in that entity. And it's going to leave the owner of a limited liability corporation only liable for whatever they actually insert into the corporation itself, right? So one of the great reasons why people love to have an LLC, as Winston mentioned earlier, is because the ease in setting it up, the ease in formation, and the fact that, all of a sudden, whatever I have, people aren't coming after my personal assets for something that I did that was business related. You don't want to have a coffee shop or like this lady right here who's a baker, right? And she's sitting up there making her cakes, and some eggshells fall into a cake, and she delivers the eggshells to somebody, and they eat the eggshells. They get ridiculously sick. And they can tie the eggshells back to her cakes, and then they sue her. But they don't just sue the baking company that she has. They sue her. They go after her personally, right? Because she wasn't in an LLC. She didn't have an LLC set up, right? So they're going after her. They're going after her house. They're going after her car. They're going after her bank accounts. They want everything that this lady owns because some eggshells fell inside of her cake mix. And of course, that lady didn't actually have eggshells.
That's a damn shame. That goes back to my comment about us being such a litigious society, that every time there is a scenario like that, you've got to be protected, because there are people, and it's not really just people per se. People, they sometimes, you did a mistake and they do want some compensation for it. But man, turn on your TV, see how many lawyers are trying to get paid off of that stuff. It is out of control. And I'm not saying anything against lawyers. I know many of them who are fantastic people. But those guys who was like, yeah, you slipped and you on some eggshells. Let me get you $1 million and then crush this lady's business. That's something wrong with that. And I know there's caps on it. I'm not a lawyer, but I know there's caps on all of that kind of thing. But still, you got to protect what you do. When you create your business, you didn't create your business to have somebody take it all pretty quickly. You just don't. And the LLC, the limited part there that David was explaining was this: you can't do any crimes and think that you're protected. You just can't do it. It's limited in that respect. And if you do anything that's that was obviously negligent. So in the scenario that David mentioned, I am sure that if the person did everything reasonable in that place, they might be protected. But if they didn't, then there could be some ramifications of it. So I just tell you all that today, and I was going to share with you all here the thing that I use every time someone asks me about an LLC. I don't have the time to sit there and write the articles of incorporation and all of those things. When I first did my very first LLC way back when, I did all of that, and I sat there and physically wrote every single thing. And I was saying to myself, man, this is so laborious. And so, like every cool thing in these days when it comes to technology, LegalZoom exists. I don't know if it's cheap or not. All I know is that it's more effective than doing it on my own, because I consider sometimes the times to sit there and write it and get the template, make sure it's all done a certain way as opposed to going through this wizard. I consider that money too. And so that's why I use that. We are not being sponsored by these guys. Are they perfect? No. But every time I've interacted with them, they've been okay. And so thinking about an LLC and a step to do really quick, all you need to do, or not do, but think about is who you are. And on a previous episode, we shared with you how to get a federal tax ID number. Just go to irs.gov and you can do it in 5 minutes. Don't pay anybody to get it for you. I hate to keep emphasizing that because I keep having friends that keep coming to me. Dave is like, yo, my lawyer told me it costs $300 for me to get a tax ID number. I was like, yo, it's so not cool. That is not cool.
What I would say is for all our burgeoning entrepreneurs out there, that is always a business that you could start up, that you're going to, hey, I can give people tax ID numbers. 100% profit on your end.
Well, I tell you, even if you go on websites and you say, I need a tax ID number, irs.gov is not the first thing that pulls up. Nope. Some other companies have paid search engine optimization, so they're at the top. And you'll go in and go, oh, yeah, well, I'm getting myself a tax ID number. And then at the bottom, you'll be like, send us $300 for doing it. You actually have to look for it or type in irs.gov in order for you to get it. Because it just won't show up that way. And I'm like, man, how many people do these guys probably make a killing? No pun intended. Every single year, just having some people go, oh, yeah, well, I guess that's how much it costs. And then let's go ahead and they spend that kind of money.
That's why one of my favorite Google searches whenever I do start to search for things is to see if there's something available free.
I tell you, these days,
how do I do this by myself? And then I look at it and it say like, all right, that's too difficult or that's too easy, right? So if the first thing that you got to do is to get a tax ID, you want to go and look and see, how do I get a tax ID, right? What are the actual steps? And then you say, do I need somebody else to do it?
You got to redo your own research there. One of the things, I think we've mentioned this before, is that having your own business is awesome in a way because you learn what you can do by having a business. You learn what you can do and what you can have others help you do. And that is a really important thing when it comes to a business. You just can't say, well, I just want to be a baker. You can't do it. You're going to have to learn something else besides just being a baker. Even if you can have a bakery shop, you're going to have to learn other things to do.
Yep. You're going to have to learn logistics. You're going to have to learn, how do you manage, client relationships? How do you do packaging? How do you do distribution? How do you negotiate contracts? All of these things are going to happen. This is for the baker, right?
Yeah, marketing. Don't forget marketing. I mean, there's a lot to think about.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time in the last episode talking about marketing.
You just can't do it. And these days, there's like a new dimension to marketing one of which I have to admit that we are still learning ourselves because it's just moving, and that is this whole social media marketing that exists out there. It's a different world than traditional marketing and just making a flyer or sending somebody something in the mail or even sending somebody an email. It's a different thing. Social media marketing is a totally different animal, and it's platform specific. So what may work on one platform here may totally not work on another platform. And so you've got to figure out which platform that you want to do and then master that platform first. Like pick one. I have a good friend who does this business where she brings ladies together to talk about their marriages and how to counsel them through their marriages, etc. And she started off only on one platform, and she grew her followers to a nice thousands of tens of thousands of numbers. And I was like, that is great. Now, would that be the one that you should pick? Probably. And, I don't know if it is or is not, but you should think about which one makes sense for you. So if you're the baker shop or if you're whatever you're doing, you got to think about which one do you have, number one, even before that, which one do you have a personal affinity to? So which one are you already down with that you love? And which one is easier for you to figure out? So if there's one that you use all day, so if you'll say you're like a Twitter person, you say, well, Twitter is my deal. So how do I maximize my business on Twitter? First, because you already know it.
Yeah.
So for example, there are ones like in my case, YouTube is probably my least knowledgeable one because now that I've learned about it, it's been around for 20 years or however long it's been around. But there's other ones that might be more effective at, like LinkedIn or something like that. And so pick the one that really connects with you.
What I found, going to a couple of small business not seminars, but what do you call those things? Conventions. There are actually people, some small businesses that get hired specifically just to manage social media, right? So like there's like this whole new marketing role, especially for small businesses, where they'll be like, all right, I don't know anything about this, but my daughter has a friend that knows a whole lot about Twitter or whatever, blah, blah, blah. You know what? She just graduated college. I'm going to bring you on so that you can manage my social media, right? And they, come in and they make a decent lot of money, and this is how they're able to market, right? So there's a whole nother, and I'm talking about for small business, right? So when we talk about large corporations are spending their money on social media development in a whole lot of different ways, and they have to be concerned with legality, right? Are they going to say something that's wrong? I remember, back when I was in banking and Twitter started to pop off, the big worry was always like, oh man, are we going to send, the bank wanted to start sending tweets, but they're like, are we going to send something that puts us at risk? So it was like, in order for them to be able to generate a tweet, the tweet had to go to compliance and then go to legal and then back to compliance again. And then you able to send out your tweet, right? So it's like, all right, how effective am I in something that's supposed to happen like this?
That's horrible. That's what it sounds like. That's the case. You made me think about something. Like you personally, everyone that's listening to this now or whenever, everything you do is marketing on social media.
Yep.
Every post you do is marketing. So you can't do a post, say, yeah. Or if you think you're going to rant because you don't like how the game happened last night and you're dropping a bunch of F-bombs inside of there. All of that stuff is discoverable, at a certain point. So you got to make sure that you think about your brand every single time you interact with those kind of things. You just have to every single moment. And it's an opportunity. Even if the moment is to say, that guy, Dave, he's cool. Maybe that's the only thing that they find out about the post. That's cool. Whatever that is, you just got to make sure you're being focused on it, because every single thing you do, your scenario about the tweet going back and forth legal made me think about that.
And I'm going to tell you the truth. Most people who see me on social media will realize that I don't do a lot on social media. And a big reason why I don't is because I'm always questioning, right? And then it just becomes an annoyance for me because I'm like, okay, I have all these different populations of people, and if I say this, I may be offending this one guy that's sitting over here in the corner inadvertently, and I don't want to offend him, right? So I got a lot of friends that are just like, yeah, so what if I post something and it offends you? I don't care. I actually do care because I'm like, I don't want to be out there just being this guy that's just like a jerk that doesn't care about anyone, right? But it's even greater than that, because then it's also like when I do post something, the thought, or even as I'm thinking of posting it, the thought goes like, oh man, how much effort do I have to spend to put into this? So for that reason, I think that I end up just looking at what other people post quite often, just because I get in that whole scary thing. And you shouldn't fall into that. But part of what we were speaking about earlier with the mental health awareness is that you gotta be aware that, yeah, if I'm gonna have anxiety about posting something in social media, maybe I'm not really a great social media marketer, and I realize that I'm not. Winston posts all the advertisements for this show. I never post them, right? I hardly even repost them, just because I just have this I don't know, I got this hang up of just not posting stuff. I don't know. You can't be perfect with everything, and I know I'm far from perfect. But
the tricky thing about social media to me is that there's so much of it. It does exist out there, and you cannot. I think it's going back to the thing we started with, where we talked about this being Mental Awareness Month. I think it has an effect on people. Social media done poorly. If you get yourself addicted, human beings can get addicted to anything, and so if you much of it, you don't do anything else, and then you start to wait for the dopamine hit of people liking whatever you post and all of that stuff. I think that could be damaging to people. Yeah.
Well, that's what Instagram was trying to consider, right? So Instagram was going to take away the love button, right? The like button. And I was like, if you take away the like button, why am I even going on Instagram anymore, right? I mean, not that I go on Instagram all the time anyway, but the like button is very important for a lot of people who post. It's how you know. Yeah.
Sometimes I've got this point here where I don't know if I care as much as I used to, because it was like a rush at first when it came out, like, oh gosh, somebody liked it 10 times, 100 times, or whatever it was. But there's more people that see it than like it.
Yep.
And so you've got to think about this. One of our family members, Michelle, we got a lot of entrepreneurs in our family. She shared something with me. She was starting her business, ichipal.com, by the way, where she makes a whole bunch of holistic, great stuff. She said, I don't really care. I'm just going to keep being consistent about it. I'm just going to keep doing it. She said she didn't care if one person responded. She was like, I'm going to have a schedule. In my schedule, I'm just going to follow the schedule, and I'm going to keep doing it. And in my opinion, even if some of her things have no posts, it's work, because her business is thriving. Her business is doing quite well. And so being consistent, I think, is a key thing, and not letting the dopamine or the lack of dopamine. I've heard so many stories about young people and even older people who, if something didn't happen a certain way, then it creates like a mental crisis for them. Like if they did a post and it didn't fall out, it didn't get the 500 that the other one got, then next thing you know, they're in a mental picadillo. And so you can't be that way. You got to think about what's right by you and taking care of yourself and making sure that you're sharing your message, but not allowing yourself to be caught up in that trap around it.
And then when you talk about businesses, right? And that example that you gave for Michelle is 100% on, right? So if I'm a business and I want to, raise awareness about my business, yeah, you want to post. You want to post stuff, right? Because if you don't post the stuff, no one's gonna know, right? So whether if they're liking it or not, it doesn't matter, right? So so often we see marketers use the approach of, I just want someone to see it, right? I just want someone to look at it. If you look at a logo a million times, but you don't care about it. You don't like it. You don't dislike it. You just see it. Guess what? You're going to remember the brand, and the brand ends up becoming something that's common for you, right? And that's one thing that you're able to do on social media. You can do it for free, right? You can post it, and people that are in your circle, people that have liked your page, they'll continuously see it, right? So it's messaging is important, but a lot of times it's just the image of seeing it, right? If you walk past the same, and I'll tell you about an interesting thing that someone said once, right? That I heard someone tell me that stuck with me for a very long time, right? So let's say, for instance, you see that there's I don't know, a shirt on your floor, right? The first time you see the shirt on your floor, you're gonna look and say, "Damn, why is the shirt on the floor?" If you keep on walking by that shirt on the floor, at some point it just becomes normal, and the shirt just becomes like it's almost supposed to be there, right? You're never gonna pick it up now because it's just like that shirt has become a part of my environment. Now, when we talk about marketing, we could say that a similar type of thing happens when you consistently see something, right? So if I consistently see, the Bank of New York, the Bank of America logo, all of a sudden the Bank of America logo becomes just a commonality to me. And now if I just see that logo without seeing anything else, I know that's Bank of America. And now I start to associate other things about Bank of America with that logo as I begin to start learning things about it, right?
Yeah, it's
And
all about that momentum. I wanted to make sure I addressed something that one of our listeners and followers here shared, which I think this is 100% true. I love social media personally, so thank you, Erlene, for this. Um, there's some things that's happened through social media that wouldn't have happened if it didn't exist. I've found family members that I've never heard of before in my life because of social media. We had our first family reunion, which we talked about before, because of social media and being able to engage and connect each other. Some of those resources I just shared before around NAMI and some of those other things, I wouldn't have heard about it if it wasn't for it. And so there's a lot of benefits. I'm reading a book right now called Indistractable, and it talks about how some people went to this draconian measure of turning off all of their phones and all of that kind of stuff, or turn off their apps in their phones to get rid of social media. I was like, man, that is so stupid. Turn off the notifications probably makes sense. But why am I going to do something like that when I can push and pull whenever I want? I can go in and see those kind of things. I personally love it because, like I said, it's had a benefit in my life. It just did, because there's family members I have never talked to, I did not know existed, because until it arrived. It is just a great thing. And they're great groups. So, for example, I'm in the Multiple Sclerosis Warriors group, and most of the content that I see that comes out of there are people encouraging other people in order dealing with things, dealing with different medications or infusions and all of that stuff. It's a wonderful group to be part of. So I want to make sure we address that. And then Early has got another comment here that I thought was fantastic. So how often should a business post content? My opinion is every day, but every day making it relevant. If it's not going to be something that's that's going to draw your clientele in, then don't post it. You may not need to be every day. If you don't have content to do every single day that's going to be, hey, come and hear more about my service, come hear more about my thing, it's better to do one post that's really connecting the dots and drawing people in than to do a lot of posts like, here I am, I'm getting out of bed. It's just like really things that draw in your clients, because your clients are concerned about what your business and service does to help them, what it does to help them. So having content. So say you're like a lawyer, like we were talking about earlier. I know one of my good friends is, and she did a little video post about, how to handle a certain situation. And I was like, that's cool. That thing got much love because people wanted to know. It wasn't really about her. It's about all the people who were watching it and her service and how they could get down with her service. So thinking about it like that, posting like that, and like I said, pick your platform. Start off with platform number one, whatever that platform is for you. So if you love Facebook and you in it all day long, then do that first. If you love another platform, then do that first. and then think about making a string of content. And this is bleeding a little bit over into another channel I have called Time Busters Tools, where I use this program called Notion, where I map out every single scenario of every single show that I'm doing, and in every single business post that we're going to do. And I say, because my brain is always thinking about it. So back to what you were saying, David, if I'm thinking about it, I got to get out my head. So I got to put it there. And then when it's time to post or to have a video, I've got this whole schedule of it. Because what you'll find as a business owner, you've got a lot of things on your mind, like right now. Like many of you who are listening now or tomorrow or later, you're going to say, so I got stuff in my head. Where do I put it? What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to walk around all day, all Saturday with this thing on my, you are going to have, it's going to suck. So you got to get it out your brain and put it in a spot, and then create a calendar. That way, all the content, because no matter what you're doing, you've got a whole bunch of it. Put it somewhere, and then from there, making sure you create a calendar and you talk about it. Because if you sat there, you took after you finished listening to the Surviving Business Show, and you just sat here to the rest of the day and just mapped out everything that's on your mind with your business, you're going to have a page at least of stuff to post. And always on those things, ask a question like, why is it for the people, not for you? Like in this episode, we're talking about why should you get an LLC? Like for the people, what is that for them? So figure that out. So hopefully, Earlene, that helps. If you have any further comments on it, please keep letting us know and connect with us if you want. We really appreciate you joining the show here today. Dave, what's your thoughts on this?
So I think Earlene, that's a great question. And when we think about what we were speaking about in the last episode, which was marketing plan, right? And the importance of marketing. That's where you really want to flush that out, right? So part of what Winston was saying was, at first he's like, yeah, do it every day, right? But it's one of those things like it depends, right? And you find in life and business, a lot of times the answer to questions is always like, it depends. So what you really want to do is kind of do some of the things that he was saying. Take a catalog of all those things that you have that you want to post about, but then you want to think about what's the message that you're sending out to people, and how do you really want to use social media? Are you using social media to get clients? Are you using social media to get awareness about services that you offer? Or are you using it just for social good to let people know what kind of things they need to know about the type of industry that you're in, right? And you kind of want to figure out where do you want to lie in there, right? And then when you are able to define that, that's when you're able to say, how often should I really be posting this, right? And, what will the relevant content be, right? Because if you post every day about things that no one cares about because you're just like, I got to post every day, then you just become like the person where people say, you know what? Let me turn this off, let me unlike this page because shoot, I'm always seeing stuff, right? You want to make sure that that you're finding something. Also, you also want to find a schedule that you're able to adhere to, right? So you also don't want to say like, put yourself to a task where you say like, I'm going to post every day, but you are only on social media, 4 times a week, right? And when you're on social media, you didn't want to spend all of your time trying to figure out what you're going to post. So, you want to make sure that it's a schedule that you can maintain, something that you're going to be able to create the type of content that you want. So if you're creating marketing content, that you're able to create the marketing content. And sometimes it doesn't require a refreshing new post, right? Remember that we can always reuse stuff, especially when we're talking about in social media environment, right? Reusing a post from a week ago isn't going to make somebody be like, dang, they always posting that same thing. No one even remembers. They might say, man, I thought I saw this a week ago. So what? Also make sure that, when you are utilizing social medias and you're, if you do have like a splash page or something like that, that the content that's on there remains relevant. And to me, it's also clean, right? So when I say clean, that means if you're reusing the same post 10 times, we're seeing the same post really kind of like 1 time, 2 times, right? If you're getting like people that are attaching to your page and trying to send your page some type of crazy stuff that has nothing to do with what you do or does not represent the values and the vision of what you want to present in your company, that you're kind of like managing that. You're deleting that off. You're getting rid of that content, right? Because that's important. I've had clients that I've dealt with where, you go to their social media page and you're like, they're saying that their business is supposed to be this, but then you look on, the social media page and it's like, you're not representing that. And it's not you who's not representing it. It's the people that are visiting your page that are representing it, right? They're coming to your page and they're tagging you on stuff. They're putting you on stuff, and they want you to be involved in what they're involved in. But if that's not what you want to be involved in, don't be involved in it.
I would say the answer really is be consistent of all the things you heard Dave say and what I shared. So if you say I can only post on this thing once a week or once every 2 weeks, just be consistent about that. Just do that. Like, this show happens when it happens, and we try to be consistent most of the time. Just try to be as consistent as possible about it. And here's the underlying thing in all of the things that we've shared about this. You have got to be you. You've got to be authentically you. You can't be like, yo, my thing is only $5.99. Today it's only $9.99. You can't be inauthentic on that kind of stuff. You've got to be who you really are. You got to be really, you can't, human beings, I think sometimes we don't give human beings enough credit because we can sift through shiciness a lot of times better than we think we can. So when someone's out there trying to get over on us and say, oh yeah, well, you got to do this right now, because if you don't do it in the next 5 minutes, I only got one of these left, only one more slot. But you got to come in, and it used to be $6.99. But now if you come in with just one slot left and it's $9.99, that's not true. Human beings can figure you out. You can. And even if you do get that person, what kind of experience are you making for them? Now, Dave, I shared at the beginning of this, one of the things that we are focused on and is really making sure that we got principles around ethics. You cannot have a long, sustainable business if you don't have an ethical core about what you're trying to do. You just can't. You can get paid for a while. You can get paid, you can get over, but you can't do it. At least we're not going to promote the fact that you can do it. Maybe there's somebody who can do it, and there are shysters that exist out there, but we don't believe in that. We always say that businesses are a force for the common good. There are plenty of businesses. Day before you came, I was sharing a story about all these scammers in India who are scamming people for oxygen because they need it for their family members. And I was saying to myself, what a horrible moment of humanity, where human beings are trying to overcome something that's really traumatic for them. And this other person is trying to get over on them, because some cases they were given the oxygen tanks and there was no oxygen in it. And so the person would pass, and then the person would get their money ripped off.
That's crazy.
What's a cascading effect of the trauma associated with that?
Yeah.
So be consistent. Be you when you are doing your marketing and when you're getting out there. And when that's part of the whole thing we're talking about, LLCs at first, created not just so you can protect yourself, but to make sure that you understand you are a brand, you are a real brand. No matter what you're doing right now, you are a brand. Yeah. Like, there's so many people who do so many things and they go, oh yeah, well, I don't know. I'm going to put a post here from Early that I thought was great. I'm thinking about doing more lives on IG and possible a podcast in the future. What advice would you give me? So the Creativity Cocktail, which is another one of our channels, is celebrating its 2-year anniversary on June 5th. And my advice is to start, because that podcast that I did way back when, 2 years ago, in my own mind, as an artist who likes to write and like to do stuff, I think it's horrible. I think it's horrible. But lots of people listen to it, and it had an impact and effect on many people that are out there. On a practical level, since then and now, it's become easier to do some of these things. IG Live, just get yourself some good lighting, a good place, and start doing your lives. Start doing it as soon as you can. And talk about the things that we're talking about today in regards to who you are, how do you help clients, what problem do you solve? Do that, and do that in your IG live and elicit questions from them. Say, tell me guys, what are you thinking? What are you about? That kind of thing. You can start that right now. Just make sure you get good lighting, because good lighting, and that always throws me off when it's not good lighting on the IG live. So just do that. So if you're outside, there's good lighting. Get the sun. Do something like that. Podcasts. There's so many platforms that are out there that are easy. The one that people use a lot these days is called Anchor. You can go in it right now on your phone or on your iPad and download Anchor and start doing a podcast. I use a tool called Ferrite when I'm doing audio podcasts because it'll record it very well. And I use a platform that takes the podcast. It's called Podbean, which takes the podcast and put it on Apple, Spotify, etc. When we first started doing it 2 years ago, it took me forever to learn how to get a podcast uploaded to Apple. Now with Anchor, you just put it on there and you're finished and it's done. It's up there and it's gone. It was like so hard. You had to write thumbnail. You had to do all this other kind of mess in order to get the podcast up there. Now just go to Anchor. Download it right now. We are not being sponsored by them. But if they're listening, hit us up. But let's go do it right now. And that'll be a great way to get yourself kicked off and just do it. And the other thing I'd recommend is create a handle for your business. So if you got an Instagram account now and you want to be very specific about what your business is, you might want to create a new IG account for that. They make it pretty simple to do that, just so you can segment the followers. Like Dave was talking about earlier, that he had to go in and kind of think about populations of different groups of people. You can create that IG profile just for that. So you won't have any followers to start off with because you're going to have to develop that. But at least you know that the people who are following that profile are there for that, as opposed to anything else that you might be doing. So thanks for that question, Earlene. Anything?
No, I mean that's great advice. Start now. That's the way to do it. The interesting thing is, and I'll just give a little example. I got a buddy. He's been wanting to start a podcast with me for a long time, and we keep with him. We keep getting hampered in the detail. He's like, oh yeah, how are we gonna do it on? How are we gonna capture the podcast? Blah blah blah. Well, we just got to do it. So you can spend. We could have the same conversation next year, and you could still be asking us the same question about are you. You're thinking about doing IG Live and starting a podcast. Or you can go right now. Well, as soon as we're done, because you're going to finish listening to us. As soon as we're done, you go right outside, open up your door, and start your IG Live and say, hey, it's Earlene, and I'm here to tell you something today. I got a message to share.
That's right.
Don't use my words, because my words probably weren't that great or illustrious. Or actually, maybe they were, but you'd have to pay me if you use them.
I'd say it's created its own kind of cottage industry as well. You mentioned earlier those who are out there that are helping people to gain followers, like authentic followers. There's a whole business of people who are doing that. And all of those people aren't in the United States of America. Well, there are people who are out there helping other people get monetized and all of that. I've got some great friends who've shared those kind of things with me. I think the cool thing though is that you can do it right now. Mm-hmm. Whereas in the past, you'd have to have those laborious sit down conversations about it. And you got to now when you own a business, you got like two paths. You got the right now path and then the planning path. Mm-hmm. you got to do the planning, but you got to start. You can't, they're like on two levels here. Because if you sit there and say, I'm going to plan for 8 or 9 months, the world will be changing in 8, 9 months. You can't be sitting there doing that. You got to think about, what do I do? What little tidbit, what kind of thing can I move the momentum while I make sure I continue with developing a strategic plan? You can't Go ahead.
Well, it's like the whole change in project management, right? So, waterfall versus agile, right? We live in an agile world, and we have to be able to go out there. You put out your best product, and you realize that you're going to have to continuously tweak it to make it become a better product, right? And that's the way you should be operating as a business in 2021, right? That's the year we're in. I was about to say 2022. We're not there yet. I'm looking forward to it though.
So we are coming up. I think we had a really ad hoc conversation today. We wanted to make sure that it was just really authentically us talking to you guys today. And so, we usually have our cool little things that we do, our little segments, whether it's the surviving or surviving part. But you said, let's not just talk today because our end of season 1 is going to be on June 19th. That's going to be end of season 1. And for those of you, many of you know that is Juneteenth. And so we are going to be highlighting many Black businesses throughout that time. If you have a Black business or you want to nominate one, just let us know. Just hit us up. I'm going to put the ways you can contact us here in a second. Just let us know how you can get involved, and just hit us up on YouTube or on the other channels, and just let us know about the Black business that you're involved in, that you know of, that you want to support. Juneteenth has become a real great holiday for all of us. It's our Independence Day. It's a very important holiday for all of us. So we said, why don't we take that moment and talk about all the great Black businesses that are out there? There's so many websites that are now highlighting the Black businesses that exist. And this is the way, Winston opinion, to bridge the wealth gap that exists between us and other groups of people, is by having a strong business foundation, having a strong legacy. Many of us have come from situations where there were no wealth in the backdrop of where it was. And like David and I's case, our parents moved from another country with not that much resources, and they had to build everything from the ground up. And so how do you develop those kind of resources going forward? You can do lots of things. One of the things we know is that even if you say estate, as an example, which is true, you make an LLC for your real estate company. Make sure that you do that, because you need an entity to build that legacy going forward. You've got to make sure that you do that. And that, to me, that's kind of our obligation as Black people and African-American people in this country, is that we've got the business that you have today is not really just about you. It's about your clients, but even to a deeper extent, it's about your family. It's about, what do you want to leave for them? What do you want to have them have as part of their legacy? It's bridging the gap and creating a wealth foundation for them, because this is important stuff. So maybe many of you have never thought about your business that way. You say, well, I'm just going to make a business because I'm really cool at whatever I'm doing, and I'm just going to do it. But when you're doing it, it has a ripple effect to so many people in your lives. So Juneteenth is going to be dope. It's going to be our last episode of season 1. It'll be 10 episodes, so we're taking like a Netflix approach to our seasons, and so hopefully you guys will be there for that. We're going to actually make an official invite, and we're going to have hopefully some engagement there that you'll dig, and we're going to highlight at least a few businesses that we both love, and we're going to talk about them, and we're going to have a little bonanza around it, and we're going to celebrate a holiday for us.
So does that mean that you like creating some new music for it?
Perhaps. Is there something going on with my music?
I don't know. It's going to be a celebration.
I have created some new music, quite frankly. That's another thing that's so cool about technology these days, where you can actually sit there and make music. I've made a couple of tracks. I am not a music track person, so I'm not trying to tell you that you don't see some Winston coming out, I'm gonna be hitting you with a bunch of bars. No, that's not happening. I just make cool music because I like making cool music. So yeah, you have to terse up your lip like that. You're like, psh, dude.
We'll see how it goes.
He's like, what are you talking about? So any comments, Dave, on our Juneteenth episode?
Just looking forward to it. I think that, when we think about people from the African diaspora, that live in America, and the challenges that, we go through, it's it will be a great day for us to really reflect on the gains that we've made. Um, so often I speak to people, and you'll hear people be like, well, nothing's changed since the '60s, and I'm like, yeah, a lot's changed. Um, Economically, uh, living standards have increased in America, across the board. But living standards for African Americans, whether if there are numbers that would come out and try and tell me that what I'm saying is false, I don't believe those numbers because I see it in our people. And I know that there are a lot more situations where we have been able to take advantage of opportunities and begin this process of really passing wealth on, not just to, you know, our children, but, to, the future, right? And for, and yeah, the children are the future, right? That's what Whitney said. But, but when I say onto our future, what I'm talking about is creating an environment where no longer do, hopefully, no longer will your children's children have to grow up in circumstances that are lesser, right? Um, it's it's a difference now between when folks make it and have to be like they grew up from the hood. I don't think that it's as prevalent of a story anymore. It's not the story of our youth. There's still hoods. There's still poverty, right? There's still homelessness amongst young children, um, especially young children of color. There's still horrible living conditions for some people. Um, but I think that there are also a lot of great stories and a lot of success stories that have led us to a place where we can start thinking of how do we make sure that we continuously are bringing everyone up.
Yeah. You know, we say businesses are a force for the common good. Black businesses are a force for the good of not just the common, right, everyone around it, but for our legacy and for our families. So if you're sitting somewhere and you're doing something wherever you might be, and you say, "Yeah, I'm all really good at this. I'm really good at that." Start a business today. Technology has made it so amazing that I see people have run their whole businesses on their phone. And every single person has a phone. So start that. Start that today. You deserve it. You deserve it. You cannot live a life where you say, you know what, I was going to do this business, but I got caught up in this thing. And so, I got to, I should have done it when I should have done it. If you're listening to us and you're like 75 years old and you never had a business, but you always wanted one, then this is like the perfect time. All the stuff that you've done between now and then, or now and then and now, has prepared you for this moment. If you're 15 and you got a great idea about what you want to do, just do it, man. Our country, the United States of America, is not flawed. Is flawed. There's many things that are flawed about this country. But one of the things that I do think is a great thing is that we can start our business tomorrow. Yeah. State by state, you got more and more hurdles to jump through depending on where you are. But you can do it tomorrow. You can today. Just get up, man. Just go ahead and do it. And then let us know how you're doing it. And let us be able to help you along the path. The reason why this show exists is not about David and I, so we can talk to you about all the dope stuff that we know, because we do know lots of great things, but to figure out ways that we can help you along the path. Reach out to us on all those channels that we have, and let us be able to help you get to where you need to be, because we believe in you. We don't even know you. We believe in you. So this is Winston and David from the Seven Business Show. Catch us on Juneteenth. We appreciate you guys so much. And remember, businesses are a force for the common good. Take care.